Hi, good evening, and namaste, everyone. Rishi, Eric, Infanti here with you guys, and welcome. So this is another phase in the series. So what we're doing here is a couple of different things. We're having an open dialogue, we're having an open discussion, and we're also having a book reading. So what I want to start to do is bring context into what mindfulness is, because it's a little bit elusive in its definition, right? So I want to start to bring context to that definition of what mindfulness is. So some of that will come out of our dialogue, some of it will come out of my stories, and then some of it will come out of my book. So the two books of mine that I want to read from is here. So this book is ready very, very shortly. I am grateful to have some help with this as regards to the photo shoot for this. That is actually happening tomorrow evening, so that is great. So mindfulness combined with Yin Yoga. So this book will be out very, very soon. So I have to just simply finish the photography of this and then insert those photos into the book, do the pagination, and then boom, hit publish, right? So then this book will be in our hands and ready to be explored through Amazon. So I want to read a little bit out of chapter 9 out of this book. So that title is Deepening Self-Awareness and the Key to Transformation. So I love this chapter. This is the last chapter of the book. I love this chapter, and it actually finishes with a loving kindness meditation as well. And the other book I'll be reading from is already available. So I did this last time as well. So Yoga in the Martial Way. So I did gear this book specific for the martial artist and very specifically for the Jujitsu artist as well, because that is currently what my practice is. So, and how much mindfulness do you need inside of a movement, that modality that could be intense and that could be that dynamic in its movement, right? So, so something like that requires mindfulness as an art to be a part of it. So it's like a pairing, right? So let's go ahead and start to bring that context together. So again, I'm gonna start the reading through this book here. So Mindfulness in Yin Yoga, Embracing the Yin Path. So chapter 9. So deepening self-awareness, the key to transformation. Self-awareness can help us gain a better understanding of how to live a wholesome and fulfilling life. When going on this journey of self-awareness, it is imperative to fully immerse oneself in the practice and inspired actions that aid this. There are many benefits to becoming self-aware, as a self-aware person is better equipped to face the challenges and strife of daily life. By cultivating mindfulness in a Yin Yoga practice, and we can actually insert a lot of different things right there, right? So it doesn't always have to be yoga or even Yin Yoga as a style of yoga, right? So could it be a different movement modality? Could it be a different healing modality? Could it be just simply something we practice in our daily lives? Absolutely, it can. So, but the context of that particular book is Yin Yoga as a pairing together with mindfulness, right? So in life generally, we can come to a deeper understanding of our true selves and find comfort and appreciation in it. So a deep knowledge of self fosters an independent spirit and helps in boosting our self-esteem and confidence. Simply a deep knowledge of self frees us. It stills the internal conflict that many feel on a day-to-day basis and kills self-doubt. It also helps us to develop more lasting and fulfilling relationships, and it renews our sense of purpose. This blissful inner confidence comes from an active practice, and I'm calling it Yin Yoga here, in utilizing mindfulness in the navigation of our daily occurrences. So thank you guys for all joining. So this is an active dialogue here. So if you guys have questions, commentary, post them in the event, please. That would be really great, and then I can start to field those questions for you guys. If I see it here, I'll grab it but I'll go and do a thorough scan of all the questions towards the end, okay? So we'll probably have a good 30, 45 minutes here together. And I want to share where mindfulness really aided me in my life a while back. As a Marine Corps veteran, Semper Fi, I've always dreamed of running the Marine Corps marathon. And so I just want to say up front what a marathon is, because not everybody knows. A marathon is one race, 26.2 miles. And so how much mindfulness do you think one needs to go ahead and have an event like that happen and live to tell the story, right? So 26.2 miles requires a lot of training, right? Whether you're walking it, running it slow, or you're running it fast, right? It still requires preparations. And so all the preparations I did for the Marine Corps Marathon were over the course of an entire 12-month period, right? So I actually had a trainer. So, and what it takes to do that is quite a bit. The inner will that you need to run a marathon like that is quite a bit. The investment of time, right? And the investment of energy. And then getting your mindset straight for that is quite a bit. And so the theme of our evening here for this talk and for this book reading here is, what is the difference between mindset and then mindfulness? I like to think of mindfulness as the umbrella for us, and then mindset is something that we actually have as either something to do, to think about, contemplate about, or it is a system of beliefs, right? So there is a little bit of a difference here, and I want to continue to bring mindfulness into the light. I want to bring mindfulness into the light and bring context and definition to it. Because mindfulness we can bring into every aspect of our being and for every walk of life on this planet. So mindset is a set of beliefs, more of a set of beliefs, or a way one thinks or determines, that has a lot to do with our behavior, our outlook, our mental attitude, our perspective, right? Where mindfulness means we're really paying attention very, very closely in a particular way, on purpose, right? On purpose, in a very present moment and non-judgmental way. So the pioneers of mindfulness took a lot of this out of Buddhist philosophy, and they brought it into our world. So our teachers like John Kabat-Zinn, for example, helps to bring these definitions into place. Yeah. So when I was training for the marathon, I used to do a lot of things around my mental attitude to prepare for the race, right? But getting free around self-awareness during those training moments and during that race was amazing. So I remember I used to wake up before the sun. Get up before the sun to get your miles in, because the day had to start. And then I used to take weekends to do the longer runs. The longer runs, I mean 10, 12, 18, and then even up to 20 miles as a prep run, right? And so I used to actually go and seek out the seminars where they would say the psychology of running or the mindset of the runner, right? So I used to go to the universities even. I remember this. And then go seek out those seminars just so I can work on getting my psychology right, the mindset, if you would, around how to be able to have that human will come forth during that race. 26.2 miles is a long way, yeah? So, and then what else do you have to do? You have to get your nutrition straight, right? You have to get your hydration strategy in place, right? So you have to have all these things going on in a training periodization, and then actually plan out the actual event itself. They provide you with maps of the route, right? So you study the maps, right? You study the maps. And I remember getting all the training runs in that I had to get, all the way up to a 20-mile run. And at the time, I was living in Connecticut. Connecticut has a very gorgeous shoreline. So what I used to do was map out a 20-mile route through 3 cities down in the shoreline of Connecticut. It was absolutely gorgeous. It really was. But I used to have to actually plant Gatorade along the way, water stations along the way, right? And hope no one disturbed them. So, and my whole goal was to utilize that Marine Corps marathon to qualify for the Boston Marathon. So you have to qualify for the Boston Marathon. That was the dream. And then I remember getting up at 3:30 in the morning. So you have to get to the start line really, really early, prior to 6 o'clock. I remember, boom, that gun goes off. And it takes a good 3 to 5 miles just for the pack to thin out so you can start to work into your pace and to work into your cadence. So I remember that pack just took so long because you got people all around you. So now you're in a claustrophobic running environment. So you need to have the mindset and also the mindfulness, the direct awareness that this is happening, right? That this is happening and that this is also okay. This is part of the process, right? So I remember mile 5, things are going good. The pack starts to release. My breath is coming. I get the breath work going, the breath cadence happening with the stride of the run. I was feeling good. And so right around mile 9, 10, the body's starting to feel this. We're beyond warmed up, right? We're beyond warmed up. I've trained for this one, but we're beyond warmed up. The body's starting to say, hi, how are you? What's going on here again, right? And so you need to start to invoke a mindfulness moment here along these long arduous runs. So, and I remember mile 12, the body is really saying, what's going on, guy, right? Mile 14, it's a vivid memory. Mile 14, the body said, all right, we're done here. Even though I've trained for this and trained for this really, really well, the body locked up. So my low back area for the first time ever in life seized. The whole lumbar spine said, well, we're not going to let you run this anymore. So it really debilitated me down to a hobble, right? And so now I prepared for a whole year for this run, and it's like now I can't even finish. And then what happened was a lot of people who do these races are actually fitness walkers, right? And so they're walking this race so fast that they're actually going to finish on time. And so what happens is, yes, Denny, thank you. Yeah, good nutrition is absolutely vital here. So for athletics as well as life. But the fitness walkers were the ones cheering me on, right? So typically it's a middle-aged woman in packs, right? And so they would be screaming my name, and we got to know each other actually on the run because I wanted to finish the race. What happens though is most of these marathons, they have a time limit because they shut down the streets. They shut down parts of cities for this, right? So a lot of Washington, D.C. was shut down for the Marine Corps Marathon. So what we had to do is beat the bus, right? So if you don't finish the marathon inside of 6 hours, right, which means you're not going to beat the bus because the bus comes and picks up what's called the stragglers, right? And I didn't want to be one of the stragglers. I trained for a whole year for this. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? Thanks for coming. And so mile 14 was my aha moment to say, what's going on here? And then the pain debilitated me to that hobble. But I did finish. I was able to stretch out at the water stations a little bit, get a little bit of help there too. Stretched out well. I got my back to be a little bit more free, right? And then I was able to either walk or do a hobble run, and I well beat the straggler bus. I well beat the straggler bus. So I finished that marathon in I think 4 hours and 35 minutes. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to beat 3 hours 10 minutes so I can qualify for the Boston, but that wasn't in the cards that day. But it needed an enormous amount of mindfulness about how my body was feeling in that moment in order to appreciate what was happening and then to be able to nurture myself through it for another set of miles, right? So I still had miles and miles to go. So something really special happens on these long runs or athletic events even, if you would, where the mind-body connection comes into play, right? So that is full out mindfulness practice in the moment, and you didn't even call for it, right? You didn't even call for it. So that run became literally a moving meditation for me, right? So we do walking meditations, right? Sometimes, right? Brought to us from the Vietnamese Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh, right? So he talks very favorably about walking meditation. So this was literally finish that marathon, get to that finish line before the straggler bus comes, and that turned into a running meditation or hobbling meditation for me, right? So that is an example of where mindfulness can come in for us, right? So that's just my story. Mindfulness, I'll go back into the reading, chapter 9 here. Subtitle here, Self-Observation and the Cultivation of Mindfulness. So mindfulness and the practice of it has often been linked to self-compassion, self-acceptance, and positive self-consciousness. The cultivation of mindfulness can be monumental in correcting negative perspectives of oneself and transforming them to more positive and growth-inducing ones. You saw Thich Nhat Hanh in high school in 1971. That is awesome. That is really awesome. I wish I saw Thich Nhat Hanh. I've had the privilege to study one of his primary students, to study mindfulness and meditation with one of his students, but I didn't get to meet or see him. That would have been great. Congratulations to you. That is super awesome. So thanks for sharing that. Next paragraph. When we engage in mindful meditative practices and Yin Yoga combined, again, you can switch out Yin Yoga to be any modality, right? Or anything that's happening in life. Combined over a period of time, we not only lengthen our connective tissues and make them flexible and fluid, we also make our mindset flexible and easily adapting to positivity. This is because the practice of mindfulness inside of Yin Yoga slowly opens our physical selves to the notice of infiniteness and fluidity in every life form. Hey Brittany, how are you? It also opens our minds to healthy non-attachment to things that are finitely bound, thereby making it easier us to surrender. So again, this paragraph talks about mindset and mindfulness together. So I want to talk a little bit about the differences between what mindset is and then what mindfulness is. And mindset, and I don't know about you guys, but I get mindset out of two environments. One, in the business environment, getting your mindset ready to, to deal with the business or the business of life, right? And the other place we get mindset, and Brittany's here online, so she's fitness guru here, right? So we get mindset in our fitness regimes, right? Don't we? So we want to finish the WOD or finish our workout or finish whatever it is we want to do, finish the tennis match, right, Faith James? So we have to have our mindset right to perform at the most optimal and highest level, right? So, and that was my marathon story, right? I wanted to finish at an optimal level. Was it ideal? No, not at all. Did I take away a lot from that experience? Absolutely did. So having a physical breakdown in the middle of a marathon ended up being an aha moment, because I understood right there what mindfulness was, as well as the body-mind connection too, right? So super powerful moment, right? Mindfulness, though, in some context, so I'm going to read off a couple of bullet points here, is all about attitude. It's all about our biasness of what we're going to do in that moment. And then typically it's a habitual way of thinking, right? Like I used to coach and do CrossFit back in the day. 3, 2, 1, go, right? So that's a habitual way of thinking, right? Even back in the Marines, the Marine Corps days, we had a way of thinking about things, right? And then we also do a lot of self-talk, right? Which is usually positive affirmations these days, right? So it's also about our mentalness, about being, are we rigid or are we flexible, right? And where are we on that scale, right? Is where mindfulness is a little different. I like to think that mindset is something that we do, or an attitude or a behavior that we have, right? Where mindfulness is a little bit different. I like to think of mindfulness as the umbrella for it all again, right? So it is a free attention, right? About the present moment, And so we increase self-awareness that way. So when I was running that marathon and my low back seized up and it locked and the pain shot in my spine like lightning, I was very aware about what was going on, right? And I was also very aware as to how much I was able to push forward without being injured, right? I didn't want to be injured, but I wanted to beat that bus. You know what I mean? So also it's very, very non-judgmental observation. So it's more about a letting go in that moment, a letting go inside of that moment without attachments to it, you know? And also it cultivates an openness or a curiosity, you know? It's more responsive than reactive, you know? So let's talk about some practical tools for cultivating mindfulness. So a great way to adopt mindfulness in our daily lives is by interspersing it in our daily activities. So here we're going to discuss some beneficial mindfulness and observation techniques, right? So something that we actually get to practice without being inside of a class type environment, right? Like a yoga class or some other type of fitness class or a meditation class. So whether it's soft or rough, it doesn't matter. This is what we can do inside of our daily world and not necessarily being led or guided by some sort of a facilitator or a teacher or a coach, right? Because why wait? Why wait? So if we can induce this into our world more on a common basis versus waiting for, I got to go to that class on Friday, or this weekend event is coming up, that kind of a thing, or whether it's a daily practice even, right? So these techniques can help us to create a stronger relationship with ourselves, with other beings around us, and with our primary life source. So whatever you're connected to, so whether you call that source, God, creator, universe, put your label there, okay? Yeah. These techniques are simple but effective, and they foster an interaction with the infinite, right? So some of these practices that I have listed out here in the book, one of them talked about Thich Nhat Hanh already, so mindful walking or more of a walking meditation, right? So we can take some minutes to do mindful walking and meditate. As we do so, it is more effective to do this in places where we're outside in nature and it's serene and it's beautiful, right? So what about mindful pauses, right? So to have that gap in between, right? Little short gaps, right? So tea breaks, right? But tea or coffee breaks, not for the sense of having tea or coffee, but just having a mindful pause in our time together in the middle of the day, right? So, and I'm not talking sitting down for an hour to meditate, but we can also take mindful meditative pauses, which are brief moments, right, within our day, just to bask in stillness and just breathe. So that could be 10 breaths. That could be 10 minutes, Within hectic work or study sessions, we can take 5 to 10 minutes to ourselves and find a quiet spot to meditate mindfully, right? So we don't need hour longs, but just inducing short moments in our day. It's about the daily practice, right? Not the long practices so much. Mindful eating. How much of us have tried all kinds of diet schemes, and they either work for a short time or don't work at all. But in the long term, diets typically fail us, right? So it's about lifestyle change, and that's what mindful eating is all about. So mindful eating, we can practice mindfulness by being fully present and noticing more about texture and smell and unique taste, and noticing how food processes in our body, right? So that could be a practice, Mindful listening. So listening to other people, in other words, right? So, or listening deeper within ourselves as well, right? Another way is by listening to people mindfully with the intention of understanding what they are saying, rather than to just quickly reply, and then your story comes up, right? Our story surfaces. So mindful listening, I learned this a long time ago, is co-listening, right? So This will also help in improving the quality of what we say when we eventually do speak. So the best speakers, the best people talking around context, are also the best listeners, right? Another one is mindful self-care and hygiene. So while brushing or bathing, we can also practice mindfulness by attuning ourselves to the sensation of the water coursing down our bodies, or noticing its temperature, or perceiving the scents of our bath products, right? So another one is mindfulness of body. So when I was running the marathon, I was fully aware of what was going on in the body, but I wanted to also maintain that awareness through the rest of the miles to finish the marathon, right? Because I didn't want to lead towards injury, but I wanted to beat the straggler bus at the same time, right? So mindfulness of the body, had to be very, very in tune with my body so I can safely finish that marathon, you know? So we can do this by routinely talking, observance of what our body is doing while we are sitting still, while we are walking, or while we are exercising. So visualizing in our minds the adjustments our body makes with each act of motion. We can further this by tensing and relaxing parts of our body and noticing the sensation it produces. So that's part of a meditation practice as well. So, hi Erin, how are you? Thanks for joining. So I want to take a little bit of a pause from this book here. So again, this book will be out very, very shortly. So again, if you haven't seen the cover, you're just joining us. So Mindfulness and Yin Yoga, Embracing the Yin Path, will be out very, very shortly. So we're wrapping this book up as we speak, literally, yeah? So super excited about this one. But Yoga in the Martial Way, so it is obviously written and geared a little bit towards this movement modality and how mindfulness and the aspect of yoga, specifically Yin Yoga, can help augment or bring a system of recovery to an athlete, right? And not only recovery afterwards, but recovery like during the moment. Like when I was sharing the marathon story with you guys, it was how to be in that event still, right? And finish that event with some semblance of humility and some grace around that, but just not quit, right? I just didn't want to quit, you know what I mean? So how can we be inside of an athletic event or a training or something, right? And not give up, but at the same time, how can we induce a sense of nurturing while we're in it at the same time, right? So how do we do that? You know, so it takes mindfulness around what's going on specifically, and very deeply to be able to do that. There's a psychologist that I really enjoy his quote. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi is how to pronounce his name. He's a Hungarian psychologist, and if you don't have ever heard of him, he's known as the father of flow. So he's written a lot of books on the aspect of flow, right? So we attribute a lot of our yoga, our vinyasa yoga system to flow, right? So a flow class, right? So, but his quote is here, attention. So this is what we're talking about. Mindfulness is a direct attention, right? It's very specific, you know? Attention is like energy, in that without it, no work can be done. And we can replace that word work with finishing the marathon, right? Or whatever it is that you're doing in that particular moment. So it doesn't have to be a job, right? It could be anything we're doing in a particular moment. So no work can be done. We create ourselves by how we use this energy. Hence, our attention is our most important tool in the task of improving the quality of experience, right? So as my body broke down at mile 14 inside of that marathon, that was my experience. I wanted to improve upon that experience, right? And finish the race with grace and humility. Yeah, I wanted to do that, right? So, little reading here. This is from this book, Yoga in the Martial Way. This one is actually available on Amazon as we speak, in paperback as well as Kindle. The benefits of incorporating yoga into Jujitsu. Much more than balance, yoga gives you the subtle essence of centeredness. Centeredness is an external and internal balance. External balance provides you with a comprehensive understanding of positioning and how every single part of your body is affected by your relationship with itself, as well with the floor, as well with the mat, as well with the ground, and as well in Jiu-Jitsu you have actually an opponent or a friend you're training with, right? It could be a teammate. It doesn't have to be a competition. Earth, if you would. Balance, internal balance, allows your anatomical inner workings to come to an agreement so that your body can perform, right? So from Jiu-Jitsu to a marathon, it's not a whole lot different. So instead of a mat, you have the ground you're running on, or you're running shoes. Yeah, that could be that. But the process is still identically the same. So next paragraph. Beyond flexibility, yoga provides you with pliability. When you're pliable, you yield to external forces that seek to influence you in some unrestrainable way. Instead of resisting these forces, you yield to them, which gives you the power to defeat them. You flow. So that was the quote by the Hungarian psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Yeah. So when we have pliability, we have flow. So when you resist intangible and big things, you're creating damage and stress for yourself. But permitting them to come while acknowledging them for what they are and allowing them to move in and move out without entertaining them or dwelling on them is a great benefit to you. Pliability opens the lines of communications between your mind, your body, and breath, and your heart. It makes it possible for you to hold the pose, so we're speaking specifically around yoga, melt into it, feel the vibration, and hear what your body tells you. How different is that from a yoga practice to a jiu-jitsu practice to running a marathon, right? The melting probably will be a difference, but the process is still the same. You know? Rather than strength, yoga gives you power. Power is strength in its most pervasive and purest form. Yoga brings you close to the heart of power. In yoga, power comes in the fashion of energy, correctly placed in the right areas of the body, uniformly distributed and firing the body up from the foundation. Power comes from breathing, alignment, structure, and clarity, right? Next paragraph. Equanimity. Equanimity is arguably the most beneficial product of yoga for the practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We can probably just swizzle out that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and put any form or activity in there, right? Equanimity is calmness plus balance. Calmness is truly measured by the level of balance it yields. Calmness is the most intense of situations. Equanimity does not denote the absence of tense situations and external stressors, but the display of pure calmness and balance, even in the midst of these difficult situations. Equanimity is realized when external forces that are pressing upon you fail to stop your progress and become unsuccessful at dampening your practice. And so whatever that practice is, could be the practice of life, could be whatever event that you are in, could be the practice of yoga, obviously. Yeah. For me, for the marathon story, it was the practice of finishing that marathon in a time structure that that we created. Beat the straggler bus in 6 hours. So, and it took mindfulness to do that inside of 5 hours. So it was 4 hours 35 minutes or so. With the addition of yoga to your jujitsu, you'll have lesser injuries, smoother and quicker movements, improved breathing, improved energy use for better drilling and sparring, more powerful and extended submissions, stronger core that improves all aspects of your practice, and a mental calmness, which is very important and highly needed in competitions as well as life. So that closes out for us what I wanted to read for you inside of this book here, Yoga in the Martial Way. And again, mindfulness is here, right? Mindfulness is here for anything, and it doesn't have to be a particular thing. But as we went through that list of different mindful types of exercises that we can practice, those are all different things inside of our daily life, and they weren't just an event, right? They weren't just an event. So a couple more readings here. So mindfulness is all about knowing, right? And getting clarity around knowing. So there's a quote here I want to read out of this book. And this book is one of the premises. This book here, it's just titled Mindfulness, right? So kind of cool. And it's by the author Joseph Goldstein. And I remember some time back, A Practical Guide to Awakening. Yeah, that's a nice subtitle. So I took an advanced mindfulness and Yin Yoga training by one of my teachers named Josh Summers. And so the premise of his teachings, and what I've also adopted primarily for the course that I teach in mindfulness and Yin Yoga, is this book here, right? This is one of the primary books that I bring resources from and adaptations to the course from, is this book here. And then, so one of the aspects of mindfulness is knowing and clarity. So, and this I love so much right here. So clearly knowing what we're doing allows us the opportunity to be living loving kindness rather than just practicing it on the meditation cushion. So that little excerpt right there I love, right? So why do I love that so much? Because what we say in yoga a lot, right? We say, well, bring yoga off the mat. And then we say that as teachers sometimes. We hear this sometimes. But then it's, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? So by the practice of mindfulness alone, we start to bring an aspect of loving kindness out of the meditation cushion or out of any meditation that we're doing and off that yoga mat as well, or whatever practice that we practice, any esoteric practice, and we bring it literally into life, and then therefore those around us can greatly benefit. So one more book, and then one more quote, and then I can take any questions that you guys have, any commentary that you want to talk about. This book here I also love. It's fairly new, which is great. And if you don't know who the MD Daniel Siegel is, he's written several books now. The other one I've been reading through is called The Mindful Brain. And this one's simply called Aware. What a profound title for a book, especially for the context that we're dealing with here. Lewis, hey, what's going on, brother? Thanks for joining. So the science and practice of presence. And that right there, presence and awareness is probably the most clear definition of mindfulness, right? So, in which we can bring in all aspects of our being, of our life. So, and so this little excerpt here, a simple way to envision this, with the concept we've mentioned briefly, presence. When you're open to what is happening, as it is happening, you are present for an experience. A wide range of research reveals that presence is the best predicator of a number of indicators of well-being, including psychological measures relational satisfaction, so therefore our relationships and happiness. So I love it when these authors really bring to surface awesome things. So what I like to do is take a couple moments here to see if you guys have any questions, any commentary. Is there anything that you would like to discuss, right? So I'll go into the event and then see if there's anything here for you guys. And if not, what we'll do is I want to put a couple links here as well. So I want to put a couple links here. So 3 things to talk about now towards the end of this. So the first one is this coming weekend, I'm actually teaching mindfulness in Yin Yoga. So I will put the event link underneath here for you guys to have. And I'm doing this at Green Tara Yoga up on Indian Town Road, owned by Mary Veal. So I've known Mary probably close to 10 years now. And she opened up Green Tara, I think it was last year. So I am just thrilled and really honored to be able to teach inside of that space. So I'm really excited. We got a full house too. So we got, with Mary attending, we have already 15 people registered. So and if you're on the fence or just didn't even know about it, right? And if you're not too far from Jupiter, even if you are, create the space, create the time. This is going to be a great experience. So are we going to be doing some Yin Yoga? Tons of it, right? So that's the modality for it. But the title of the course itself is Mindfulness in Yin Yoga. Yeah. So if you want to experience this firsthand inside a community that's awesome with a lot of other people we're going to be with, it's going to be an amazing experience and it's going to be a great time. So we're going to have a lot of fun, but we're going to be doing a lot of mindfulness work, literally. And then we're also going to be practicing Yin Yoga. So I'll be leading a class every single session. And then I'm also going to, for us, be breaking down, and what I like to call in my slang, my Rishiism slang, is to yinify yoga postures, and then how to teach Yin Yoga, and how Yin Yoga is very different than the other styles or forms. And then I want to get very, very clear on the specificities of Yin Yoga in regards to how you might want to adopt that for yourselves, or how might you want to go into teaching that as well, because we have classical Yin Yoga, which is fairly challenging, yeah, because postures are held for such a long time. But then you also have a restorative Yin Yoga, which is a lot more, you're being held more by bolsters and props in the floor, right? And it's not so physically demanding, yeah. You talk about Yin Yoga, what does that really mean? So we can have a restorative or more of a relaxing form, or we can have a classical form of Yin Yoga where you actually, picture holding pigeon pose for like 8 minutes, right? So your hips like screaming. So what happens is we induce mindfulness right in that moment because we have nowhere to go. Like in that race I ran, that marathon, right? I had nowhere to go. I wanted to finish the race. I didn't want to go on the straggler bus. I wanted to finish the race, so I had nowhere to go. So I had to induce mindfulness in order to finish that marathon. And the other type of Yin Yoga is more of what I call contemporary Yin. So if you're doing more of a hatha, almost a little floor flow, right? So very contemporary Yin. You're not holding poses for such a long period of time. It's a little more comfortable, a little more accessible for people. So we'll be exploring those 3 aspects. So what I'll do here for you guys is I'll put the link to that event for this weekend coming up underneath this event here itself, right? So I'll do that for you. And then the other thing is I'm going to have a system set up, a little bit of a form set up for this. I don't have it today, but I will. Some of you are ready to work with me on a one-on-one basis. So I'm putting together a program for mindfulness coaching, right? So I'm going to put that format together, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a form with some questions to see if this is for you. So in the meantime, for right now, go ahead and just simply direct message me, right? So just send me a PM and say, hey, what's that program all about? We'll get on the phone, super simple, and then we'll talk about what that is, and then we'll talk about what it's not, but we'll talk about what it is and see if that's a good fit for you. And then the last thing is, for years I've been being asked, hey, can you put your stuff online? Either I'm a snowbird, or I'm traveling, or I just don't even live near you, but I vacationed to Florida, and I took your class. So for years I've been asked to put my yoga online. So I've done that. I will put that link down here for you as well. So it is a Yin Yoga monthly membership site. So that I will put here for you as well to check that out. So I'm seeing there's a couple of commentaries, but there's no questions here. So thank you. Yeah, Denny, thank you so much. Yeah, I wanted to finish the race, but I didn't want to be injured in the process. So thank you guys for joining me. Thanks for tonight. We had a full Wi-Fi connection throughout the whole thing too, so that was awesome. Any questions to follow? Please do feel free to chime in. If you were late in coming here, I will take this video and I will repost it. I'll repost it inside of this event. I'll also post it on my personal page, and I'm also going to post it inside of Mela Academy page as well. Okay, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. It was great to share the book readings with you. It was great to share my story with you. A couple comments came through. That's great. Danny, really nice to meet you. Catherine, nice to see you. Where were you earlier? It's late now, right? So anyhow, have a great night, you guys, and I'll put those links inside of here as well, so you have access to them. Okay. The weekend's going to be fabulous. So mindfulness and Yin Yoga together, right? Together as one pairing. I love that. I just love that. All right. Namaste, you guys. Have a great night. We'll talk to you later.